Globalization. Everyone's heard the word, but what is it and why is it important? Why is it relevant in today's society? Before we can truly understand the implications of globalization and living in a globalized society, we must first understand the basics of globalization and what it entails. The following video will help explain the essentials behind globalization.
Once upon a time, in the faraway land of Wisconsin, there was a man with a vision. And that vision was to be able to produce mass amounts of widgets. I mean, lots and lots of widgets. And that visionary was Mr. Walter Winston Wink III. Thus, W Incorporated, or Wink, was born in a tiny town in the Upper Peninsula of Wisconsin. Its humble beginnings allowed the company to produce quality widgets to, well, Wisconsinians.
As we have just watched, Wink wants to mass-produce widgets, but they are only selling to a small market of Wisconsinians. At the rate Wink wants to produce, they would create a surplus of widgets in Wisconsin, only hurting their own profit in the long run. Wink needs to find a way to mass-produce widgets without oversupplying the market.
Then, Mr. Globalization came and immediately set up a meeting with Wink's CEO, Walter Wink. Well, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Azation.
Walter, let's not be so formal. People call me Al.
All right, Al, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a multi-dimensional set of social, economic, governmental, and communicative processes. I help remove barriers, encourage global movement, and promote connections between the local, that's you, and the distant, that's them. I'm a pretty big deal. People know me.
So Wink has begun looking into globalizing and providing widgets to international markets. We just watched the CEO of Wink have a meeting with Al, and Al promoted all the positives to globalization. Al introduces himself as a multi-dimensional set of social, economical, governmental, and communicative processes. These processes are all the different aspects of globalization, each with its own set of pros and cons. Al goes on to say that he helps remove barriers, encourage global movement, and promote connection. All of these are extreme positives to globalization. Becoming a more globalized society increases communication and interaction between nations and promotes the sharing of ideas.
The purpose of Wink changed dramatically after the appearance of Al. Before Al's emergence, Wink provided quality product to the good people of Wisconsin, and occasionally to Walter's cousin Eugene in Idaho. But now Wink is focused on innovation and providing its products and services to global markets and parts of Mars. Yes, Wink is a multinational corporation.
Al? 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 What's a multinational corporation?
Well, it's a company with an established presence in both domestic and international markets that export or import merchandise or invest in international locations through joint ventures, contracts, and agreements. Basically, little Susie, it means that we are a company that sells widgets here and in Weizhou, China.
Wink has become globalized and now sells widgets not only to the people of Wisconsin, but to the Chinese as well. By finding a new market and selling to China, Wink will increase its own profits because it can produce at the high rate it wants to without creating a surplus of widgets. Seems like a win-win situation, doesn't it?
Al, when I grow up, I want to make lots of neat widgets for Wink.
Well, it's nice to have dreams, little Susie. So, after Al's arrival, Wink changed drastically. But Wink was not the only thing that changed. The company influenced its surroundings everywhere it went. Well, what exactly happened? Well, lots of things.
As the camera panned past Wink, we saw a globe on the roof of the building. The company has drastically changed from providing widgets solely to Wisconsin. When the video said that Wink had changed, it was referring to the infrastructure of the company. When a company becomes global and begins interacting with international markets, they begin to outsource. What is outsourcing? Outsourcing essentially is when a company builds its products in places where it is cheapest to produce. For instance, textiles used to be a massive industry in South Carolina until the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, was written. NAFTA allowed for free trade among countries in North America. When NAFTA was implemented, all the textile mills and corporations moved their plants into Mexico. Why did they do this? The purpose of this was to maximize profits. The labor in Mexico was much less costly than in the United States, and because transporting their goods across the border was now virtually free, they could immensely increase profits from paying a Mexican labor force as opposed to an American one.
Al's appearance allowed for many technological advances. These advantages raised the standard of living and made technology more affordable and easy to use by a larger amount of the population.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
So we see that globalization does have its positives. Some major ones are technological advancements, raising the global standard of living, and making high-tech innovations at a relatively inexpensive price. But there are always consequences.
However, people have become technologically dependent on all of the wonderful software Wink is producing. When a widget breaks, in some cases more time is spent fixing the device than the time it would have taken to manually do the actual task.
First, you need to connect the thingamajig to the whatchamacallit, and then take that and wrap it 3 times around the whirligig and cut it in half and attach it to the left kajigger.
I just want to bleep, read bleep, hop on pop.
I have to transfer your call.
Society becomes technologically dependent on the innovations brought about by globalization, so even a seemingly positive result can have negative side effects.
Oh, that little Susie, she's something else. Anyway, Al has also affected environmental issues. In general, environmental issues such as climate change and global warming affect the atmosphere negatively. As habitats decrease, the species' ability to adapt is also decreasing. However, worldwide environmental problems have brought coalitions, governments, and countries together to solve the crises, thereby creating and fostering new relationships, collaborations, and new perspectives.
Hand me a pen.
I would like to encourage everyone to strongly consider how these global issues affect us all. This treaty is incredibly important.
As of April of 2008, 178 countries have signed the Kyoto Treaty, which is aimed at controlling global warming by limiting emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases.
Another major negative of globalization is the increasing concern over the environment. As more countries outsource and try to maximize profit, they tend to care less about the environment. Third world countries have little to no environmental regulations because they are trying to draw in the multinational corporations and stimulate economic growth.
You might think, wow, Al has affected a lot of things. But that is not all he's affected. He has also been so influential that he has had an effect on the social sphere. Al's social effects meant that there was a greater exchange of ideas, leading to more knowledge gained about other cultures than in the past.
I never knew sumo wrestling was Japan's national sport and that it had such a rich historical and religious background.
And because of this greater exchange of ideas, Western ideas are spread so much that local cultures fear for losing their local values to external influences.
I love MTV. I'm thinking I'm going to get my car and pimp my ride.
Dude, yeah, that's my favorite show, and your car is a piece of bleep.
We now see why globalization is such a complex issue. Ideas are spread globally, which may seem positive to some. To others, they are worried about preserving their rich ancestral heritage, and global ideas create an obstacle for them to overcome. Historic smaller countries, island nations for instance, are much more concerned with keeping their heritage alive than globalizing their society. To conclude, globalization is an important issue, and we must be aware of it. There are many different opinions regarding whether globalization does more harm than good, but one thing agreed upon is that globalization will continue. So we must either be prepared for living in a globalized society, or be swallowed up by it. Hopefully this presentation showed you the basic concepts behind globalization and why it is relevant in today's society.